All right, and welcome to your first video of problems 1 through 10 for your Algebra 1 Semester 1 final review. We're going to go over the first 10 questions so that you have an idea of what, if you're getting your questions right or not. So on this first one, we are looking for all that apply, and we're looking specifically for what's the first step in this problem right here. Okay, so the first thing I probably would do is probably distribute here my 1/2, which is answer F. So that's one option, just distribute. The next thing that I could do, if I get rid of this, oops. The next thing that I could do is I could get rid of my fraction by multiplying everything by the reciprocal, which is 2/1. Okay, the reciprocal of 1/2, that's going to get rid of my fraction. Multiplying this as well, that's another option. That would be H. And then my final option, we'll do this pretty blue color here, is I could have instead divided by 1/2, because it's similar to like if this was a 2 here, if I do the opposite and divide by 2, it gets rid of this fraction. But whatever I do to the left, I also have to do to the right. So I would have to divide 2/3 by 1/2 as well. And that would be option I. So for number 1, the correct answers would be F, H, and I. For problem number 2, we're looking at a bag of marbles. We have 80 marbles in 3 different colors. There are 8 more yellow marbles than green. The number of blue marbles is 10 more than the number of yellow marbles, and we want to know how many are there of each. So in order to solve this, we have to write an equation. Because we are comparing our yellow marbles to our green marbles, we're going to go ahead and make green marbles our variable or unknown. We're going to say that that is green. Sorry for the confusion here. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and do our yellow marbles. So it says there are 8 more yellow than green. So our yellow would be 8 plus X would be yellow. And then the next sentence says that the number of blue marbles is 10 more than the number of yellow. So if I add 10 to my previous equation up there, 10 plus 8 is 18. That's going to get me my blue marbles here. Okay. Then I'm going to take all 3 of these and I can add them together to try to create 80 marbles because that's what we want to do. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and do X plus 8 plus X plus 18 plus X. And all of that's going to equal 80. All right, so I rearranged it over here because I didn't like the writing, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my like terms. So I'm going to take all of my x's here, and I'm going to put them together. So I end up having 3x plus, now I'm going to do my 8 and 18. 8 plus 18 is 26, and that's going to equal 80. I then subtract 26 from both sides. 3x is now equal to 80 take away 26 is going to get me 54. And if I divide 54 by 3, that will get me x, which is 18. That is going to be answer B right here. So that means that green is 18. What you can then do is just plug 18 into the x's in your equation and then solve and see. So 18 plus 8 plus 18 plus 18 plus x equals 80. You can double check that that's true. You can also then double check and say, okay, well, if the yellow is 8 more, then that would be 26. 8 more than 18. And the blue is 10 more than that, so that would be 36. Then double check 18 plus 26 plus 36 makes 80. So that is your answer. All right, our next problem is looking at properties. So we are trying to get this equation here transformed into this equivalent equation. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to look at kind of the left and the right here. So we're going to look at this side of the equation. How can I turn that into, so the left side, how can I turn that into the left? And then we're going to look at the right side here and figure out how can I turn that into the right. So I'm going to color code them there so you can kind of see. If I take a look at my options here, you should kind of see that here I'm going to do 1/2 times 4x. I'm going to distribute. So our options right now would be B or D are the distributive property. Okay, if I distribute out the 1/2, I'm going to get 2x minus 4. On the right-hand side, you can see that the 10 and the 7x are just flip-flopped in each of these. And the property that is flip-flopping addition like that is called the commutative property of addition. So to go over your properties a little bit, distributive property is showing A times B plus C is the same as A times B plus A times C. That's distributive property. The commutative property is showing that A plus B is the same as B plus A. So switching those areas, kind of like when you commute to work, you go from one place to the next. That's how I remember what commutative property means. So our answer here is D. All right, here we are on number 4. So you can see that I already worked this problem out for you because it does take some time. But if you can follow my messy digital writing, I basically did the distributive property first, and then I combined my like terms with my x's here to get 35x. I then subtracted 8/10 from both sides, and that left me with 35x equals negative 16 plus 27x. Then I subtracted 27x from both sides, and I got 8x equals negative 16. Dividing both sides by 8, I end up with x equals negative 2. Now to fill in this bubble chart, you're going to do a better job on your bubbles than I did, but basically I put my negative here first and my 2 in the next box. You color in and fill in just the circle for the negative and then just the 2 in that first box. You can leave the rest of the boxes blank, but that's how you fill in that bubble chart. All right, for number 5, it's asking what is the solution for x in this equation here. If we were to solve both sides of this equation, you can see that if I do 5x plus 2x, I'm going to get 7x minus 2. And that is going to equal the exact same thing on this side. And remember that if it's true, if what you write is true, then it is infinite solutions, all real numbers. But let's do the correct symbol here, which is not a B. Oh, I thought that was an eraser, but it's not working. There we go. All real numbers, okay? If what you get is false, if the one side does not equal the other side, then it is none. No answers, no solutions. So in this case, because this is true, we're going to have infinitely many solutions, okay? Then we've got number 6 here. Okay, for number 6, we are going to take the slope formula here, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and we're going to solve for y2. Okay, so we're going to rearrange this equation. So when I rearrange my equation, I'm going to write out the original equation. And then I'm going to start removing things using the inverse properties to get y2 all by itself. So remember, this right here is the thing that I'm trying to get to. So the first thing I would do is probably multiply everything by x2 minus x1. And that is going to get me m times the quantity x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1. Okay, and then to get rid of that, I'm just going to add the y1 to both sides of my equation. And that's going to end up being this guy right here, a. y2 equals m times the quantity x2 minus x1 plus y1. That's where this comes in here. For number 7, we're looking at inequalities for the solution here. So we're going to solve it like it is just a regular equation. But remember that if I divide or multiply by a negative, I'm going to switch that sign. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of this line. and we're going to solve straight from the equation right here. So I'm going to treat this like my line here, my mirror, and I'm going to combine my like terms. So 3a minus 6a makes negative 3a plus 3, which is greater than 15. I can then minus 3 from both sides to get negative 3a is greater than 12. I'm then going to divide by negative 3, and that right there is your sign, okay? Because I'm dividing by a negative on both sides, I need to flip my sign. So I'm going to get a is less than negative 4, and that is going to be right here, letter C. Okay. All right, for number 8, I went ahead and wrote out what I did to save some time, but as you can see, in this problem, we underlined some important things. So we know that there are 15 members in this soccer club. It's going to cost $45 just for the design to be created, and then an additional cost for every t-shirt. Each t-shirt is going to be charged, so I'm not going to be multiplying that cost by every shirt. They cannot spend more than $135. So I based my equation off of slope-intercept form because I knew that I had an initial value of 45, and then I was going to be repeatedly multiplying by some number. I ended up plugging in my total here. I used the 135 has to be the most, so 135 is greater than or equal to the price of all the shirts, which is 15 people times the price of the shirt plus the $45 it spends to just design it. Okay, I'm going to isolate x here, and in the end I get that 6 has to be greater than or equal to x, meaning that x can be less than or equal to 6. So I just flipped my answer around to make it make sense. That means that the maximum amount of money that I could spend would be $6. So they could buy 15 long sleeve shirts, 15 short sleeve shirts, or 15 tank tops. And so the answer would be D. Okay, down here at the bottom, when you see number 9, we're looking at a compound inequality. So this is a little different than the warm-ups we've been doing, but what you want to pay attention to is just the fact that we're basically just solving two problems. So we have an OR here, which means we're going to have two different arrows. They're not going to be combined. So I can already tell you that A and B are not going to be our answers. My little letters don't run away from me. So I'm looking at options C and D. I'm going to solve for the inequality here just like I would if it was a regular equation. So I'm going to do 2x plus 5 is less than 1. Okay, again, I'm going to go ahead and minus 5 from both sides. That's going to get me 2x is less than negative 4. Divide by 2. And I'm going to get x is less than negative 2. So I'm looking for something that's showing x is less than negative 2. That's going to be C right here. Now, because I already eliminated A and B, I know C is my answer, but let's do the other side just in case. So I'm going to do 4x minus 7 is greater than or equal to 9. Again, I'm just going to solve. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Sorry for that glitch there. I'm going to get 4x is greater than or equal to 9 plus 6, which is 7, which is 16. Divide both sides by 4, and I would get x is greater than or equal to 4. And that right here shows that closed dot going in the greater than direction. Here's my open dot going in the less than direction for my answer down here. C is my answer. All right, my last equation and question I'm going to do for this first video is going to be number 10. Here we have a line that's graphed on the coordinate plane and it has a slope of 2. So I already know that that is my slope. Okay. It contains this point here, and we want to know if any of these points are on the same line. So I am going to go ahead and get out my slope-intercept form equation, mx plus b, because I have a point and a slope. Now you could use point slope formula, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. Because in 8th grade we use a lot of slope-intercept form, I feel very comfortable with this equation. But because point slope equation says point slope in its name, you could use that as well. I'm going to go ahead and replace the x and the y and the slope into my equation. So 1 equals 2 times 3 plus b, and I'm going to solve. All right, and with a little bit of movie magic, you can see that I've solved that my y-intercept is -5, which means my answer is C, because the y-intercept